So the kids are packing up. They're going on a cruise to Seabourn. And Amy was just like, Mom, if you don't want me to go, like, I don't have to go, you know? But her mom was like, no, go enjoy yourself, have fun. She gets a call from Gail, and Gail is like, she had a nice time at the party, and that her and Wheezy were invited to Rafi Rodriguez's party, and that she just kind of wanted to know what kind of people are they. Are they like really wild, rambunctious? Like, what exactly should she expect? And she's like, you'll be fine. He's a really good guy, X, Y, and Z. And she's just kind of like, oh, okay, well, thank you. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe the little heifer trying to come around. I'll upgrade her from bitch to heifer. Okay, I'll give her that. So then Rob comes to pick up the kids and he said something stupid. He's like, you can come if you want to. She's like, yeah. I think that'll be a little crowded. He is just so fucking weird to me. But anyway, they leave. She feels lonely. She gets a text from Richard asking her to be his date for New Year's Eve. And I'm like, good, because it's like the moment she got the house to herself, that's when I feel like it starts to get to her, the memories of everything. But I think when she has the kids there, it's just like, okay, this is normal. I'm having my kids there. It's when there's no one in the house is when she seems to have like a really rough time. So I was kind of glad that she'll be able to get out. She won't be stuck. That's really good. She then goes to meet up with Lynn at the cafe, and she can tell something's wrong. So she's like, talk to me, what's wrong? And she's feeling a bit overwhelmed, Lynn is, because she had her job back on the West Coast. She loved it. She loved the people. And it really felt like a sense of community there. And now she's coming here and she's terrified she's not going to have that feeling again. So we find out a couple things. So Gus already has two children from his wife from before, but she died. And what's so even more heartbreaking is she died while giving birth to their second child. So she's feeling overwhelmed because of that. Gus is feeling overwhelmed because of that. And she does feel a little lonely here on the East Coast, right? Because even though she has family, they're in Connecticut, they're in Massachusetts, so they're not right here, that whole community feeling. And so she also talks about the fact that Wheezy like openly flirts with Gus. Like even if she's standing right there, Wheezy will flirt with him. And so Lucy's like, that's just kind of how she is. She's like, yeah, but I don't like it. So this is where Lucy just kind of lets her know, listen, when my mom first moved here, she had a community of women that, surrounded her. And I think they were called the Darn Yarners, if I'm not mistaken. And those people have been their family ever since. And she just kind of lets her know, listen, for your wedding, my business partner, best friend, her mom owns a place where you can get married. It's like a place where it's like celebrities go and stuff to get married. So she was like, that's going to be like really expensive. And because her mother's going through all that she is, she doesn't really want her parents to spend that kind of money, even though they could afford it. And she's like, don't worry about it. I'll call. I'll see what can be worked out. If you ever need any of us to watch the kids, we're all here. Just going down the thing of different ways that this place is a community as well. And that made her feel good. She also gave her the number to Elise, the therapist. She's like, she's been a great resource for me going through my divorce. She's like, I think she would be good to talk to. So she gave her contact information. And Lynn started to cry because it was just like, oh my gosh, like these people are really sweet. They really do care. This is a community too. And I like that, because she's got a lot going on. Her mom's sick. They don't know if she gonna make it. She's pregnant. She just moved. It's a lot. It's a lot. So I was glad that Lucy took that time to kind of let her know there's people here. Don't feel too much like you're missing a community because we're here for you. I like that. She cooked dinner. Our girl Lucy did. Richard comes over. They can't keep their hands off each other, so they wind up going upstairs and fucking. So then afterwards, they come back down, they eat, they have a good, dessert, and they're drinking and a little wine, and Richard gets on his fucking knees. And she's like, oh my gosh, she knows what she's about to do. And in her head, she's like, please stop, please stop, please stop. And so he gets the proposal out, and he tells her, he's in love with her, all this type of great stuff. And she tells him no. She says, I can't do it. I'm not ready. I'm still trying to find myself. He's like, we can do that together. She says, no, I can't do it. I can't. He, of course, gets upset and he leaves out all pissy. I just feel like he wasn't being reasonable, okay? She's 39. She just got divorced. Like, she's not even 6 months out of a divorce. We're talking about weeks, okay? Possibly a month or so. That's it. She's not that far out from a divorce. And she had a lot of trepidation with going into this situationship, because that's what we'll call it, because they kept saying they were friends, but they weren't really friends. It's like she had a lot of things going on with that, and you really thought she was just gonna fucking marry you? Like, why would you think that? Y'all haven't even spent enough time together. And I'm, again, in the words of Common, it does not take all day to recognize sunshine, and I get that. Trust me, I do. But it hasn't been that long. This is only the third time y'all done fucked. I mean, the other ones were quickies that you tried to sneak in. I'm just saying, there is nothing about this that says, I'm going to marry you. She gave no type of inkling that she was ready for that. So that means he's doing this based on what he wants and what he's ready to do. And we already got a problem, because now you're not taking in consideration the other person, right? We already at an issue. So my thing is, the ring he gave her, it had emeralds, which is her birthstone. And he, of course, was like, if you want me to get traditional diamonds, I can do that too. But she's like, it's just not the right time. And so he storms out. And I'm just kind of like, you're just going to have to be mad. Because I think that was too much too soon. And I think sometimes when you feel an overwhelming feeling so fast, you feel like, okay, this has got to be it. He probably hasn't felt that overwhelming type of feeling since since he was married to his wife. So he felt like this is it, right? This is the person. I'm supposed to be with them. Let's just go ahead and do it. And he's not taking into consideration where Lucy is with her life. Just not at all. A day or so later, Lucy goes over to see Harriet and Kyle. He comes home and he goes and changes and, well, showers and changes, comes down, and she's having a conversation with Harriet about the proposal. And Harriet is like, everyone can see how crazy it is about you, but you're not wrong for saying no. If you're not ready, if you're ready or not. And her sister just wanted to make sure that she wasn't going to go back to Rob. That's all her sister cared about. It was so funny. And Lucy's like, oh, God, no. No, 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 no. I don't want him. Even if, Richard wasn't in the picture, I would not go back to Rob. That's just not happening. So we come to find out Richard has told Kyle about the proposal and her decline. her decline of the proposal. And I guess Richard has been snapping at people. So it's been a week, because he said the past week. So it's been about a week when she goes to talk to Harriet, not a day or two. And so she feels bad, but it was the right decision for her, you know? And Cal kind of lets her know, I think the issue with him is he is a very successful businessman. And so when you've been so successful and you don't really hear the word no in your life, and then when you hear it, sometimes people expect the same thing in their personal, right? I'm supposed to be able to get away with everything. And he's a billionaire. So I kind of really see that. Well, I'm supposed to be able to get my way. And she's saying no, and I just don't think he's really equipped to hear no. I think that's really the issue. And so now, because she said no, there's this internalization of she doesn't want me, she doesn't feel anything for me, and that's not what was said, that's not what happened, but that's how it feels to him. And so he's basically been tripping ever since. So then we switch to Richard's PO. Oh, and also Harriet and Kyle, they've set a date. They're going to get married in a year. Um, that'll give good timing because some people will be coming into town, and that way people can stay. So they've at least set their date now. We switch to Richard's POV. He's with Wheezy and Gail. He's so grouchy, and Wheezy's just like, you need to go talk to someone to deal with your issues. And so he tells them what he did. Gail was shocked that Lucy said no. But then she said, well, clearly she made a good decision. It hasn't been long enough. And he's like, I've known her for a year. But it's like y'all just started spending a little bit more time these past probably 4 or 5 months or something, you know? So stop. So then Wheezy's like, well, I like her. Don't give up, Dad. You know, give her some time to deal with her feelings, but don't give up. She heads out. Gail is actually like, well, I'm going to go up and read for the night. And they were like, it's not even 8 o'clock. And she's like, well, I'm reading a really good mystery and it's at the good part. And so Wheezy says, well, you need to check out Lucy's store because she's got like a lot of those esoteric mysteries, like all those type of things that are really hard to find. And she's like, well, how do you know? And Wheezy says, because Wolfie told me, you know? And we'll see if she takes her up on that, you know, and check out the store. But I guess Wheezy's at least got a good relationship with Wolfie, but it doesn't look like Gail does. Oh, and I forgot to mention, he also said Richard not to tell Wolfie because he didn't want to come between the relationship that Lucy has with Wolfie, and they were like, honestly, he probably just take Lucy's sides anyway because he likes her better. That is so sad. So Lucy takes Lynn to go see Netherfield Manor, which is Lolly's mom's place. Mavis, I think is her name, Mavis. And they've got like different places where you can have a wedding, and she tells them she'll give them 60% off the family discount. And Mavis is a part of the Darn Yarners. So this is a part of the community that when Helen, Lucy's mom, when she got divorced, these people really helped her. You know, they were really there for her. And so she's giving her that family discount, you know? And Mavis is like really good with like really pulling out what a person really wants and kind of really giving them that dream day. So that was really nice. She felt really relieved after she left there because it's like it's starting to get a little settled, you know? The only thing that kind of bothers her still is that I guess Gus had promised someone in the family, I don't know if it was the mom or the someone, he had promised that he would never remarried. he would never remarry. And so she's kind of terrified that one day he'll wake up and say that he's not going to marry her. And Lucy's like, he loves you, you're good, But I mean, for her to say that is really sweet, considering her husband kind of up and left her. So that's really sweet that she at least trying to give her something comforting. And she drops off Lynn, and she thinks about the fact that she hasn't talked to Richard, and it's bothering her. She really misses him. So Lucy is buried in stuff to do. Wolfie and Lolly, they're out doing something. There's a knock on the door. She opens it. It's Gail. And Gail was like, she stopped by to talk about a few things. She wanted to apologize to Lucy. She said she was wrong about her. She's like, I should have never acted that way. I was acting like a spoiled brat, and there was no excuse for that. And she hopes that the way she reacted didn't sway her decision in marrying her father. And Lucy's like, no, it didn't. It was just the right decision. And so then after that, she asked her, how was the party that she went to for New Year's at Rafi Rodriguez. And she apparently had a really good time and met some guy named Tim. And she figured out the name, Lucy did, because she didn't technically say his name, but she figured it out. And seems to be a little interest to her. And she tells her, he makes some special furniture, custom made furniture. It's not far from here. It will make a great wedding gift. And of course, Gail loves it. And she's like, okay. And then she also tells her about the books and stuff like that. So then we switch to Richard's POV. Our girl Gail comes in late, and that startled Richard because she does not miss anything. But she had missed the marketing meeting, and he realizes, oh, she's starting to get a life now, Because here's the thing. It doesn't mean that because you get a life, you're going to, neglect your responsibilities. I just think she's been so consumed with work that now I feel like she's a, full force person. So now her mind's on this guy. I feel like she doesn't know how to kind of even it out. You know what I mean? It's always just go, go, go. So, but I'm happy for her because the bitch needed a life because she was a mess. So then now we get Richard is thinking about moving away. He knows it's just his heartbreak talking to him, but he feels like once he gets everything settled with the farm, gets it up and running, he's really considering going back to Arizona. He knows his brother will give him a parcel of land. And so he's really thinking about leaving. And I'm going to say this. It's the easier route. You don't want to have to hear about a person, see a person. It's easier to up and move. I get it. He's heartbroken. But she never said she didn't want to see him again. So this is where he's being a little dramatic to me. Because that's not what she said. Just saying. We switched to Lucy the past few weeks. They've been doing book fairs because they handle all the book fairs in Crabshoe Cove. No, it's not Crabshoe Cove. It's Horseshoe. Was it Horseshoe Crab Cove? I think that's it. Um, they handled everything there, and then also outside of it, they handle those as well. So they've been pretty busy, and they do like the elementary and the middle schools. So yeah, they've got a lot. They have hired on a couple more people, and they've also had Lynn helping out. And she's about a week out from her wedding. They're going to one of the schools, and she starts getting pain. And they thought it could have been Braxton Hicks, but after they get her to the doctor, it's confirmed she is in the early stages of labor. This shit's real. So she's about 3 weeks early. So Lucy calls Gus's phone. Richard answers. And she's like, you got to get Gus because she's going into labor now. He's like, okay, I'll get him. So they all wind up at the emergency room. Gail came with Richard. It was awkward at first. He, of course, wanted to see Lucy, that's why the fuck he came. And wanted to see how well she was doing. And so Gail leaves them alone and goes get some coffee. And as soon as Gail left, Gus came up and was like, someone's got to pick up the kids, X, Y, and Z. Lucy said, I got you. Don't worry about it. I'll pick them up. Just call the school. Let them know I'm coming. And I'll get them. And they'll stay with me as long as you need. And then she's like, Amy will be happy because she likes playing with the kids. So then Richard was like, I can come with you. I can help. And she tells him, you don't really have to. He says, I know, but, you know, I would like to help. And she's like, okay. So Gail comes back and she finds out he's going to go with Lucy. And she takes the car and she leaves because she's going to probably go see her boo thing. So they stopped at the school to check in on how the fair was going and to get Lolly updated on everything. Lolly, of course, is shocked to see her with Richard, and she tells her everything that went down. And so then her and Richard have lunch at the cafe. She's not really hungry, especially after she hears him outright say he's going to be leaving. He's going to go out west. He's thinking about possibly even going to France. There's some vineyards he's thinking about visiting on the East Coast, and it makes her feel sick. She cannot even eat. But then in her mind, she starts to think, it's my fault. I pushed him away. I'm unlovable. I pushed Rob away. It's me. I'm the problem. And for that, I do feel bad for her because she feels like it's like she made a decision for herself, and now it's like all of this self-doubt comes up. And I hate that for her. I really do. You know? Because it was like, it shouldn't have been put on her. It's got to be all or nothing in that moment. They get back to the house with the kids and everything goes pretty good. And then it's about time for him to leave, and he's like, she's like, I could take you. And he's like, no, I'll just have an Uber. And she feels heartbroken, and he feels like he did the right thing and kind of leaving her alone because she still looks like a deer in headlights when it comes to them. And he just can't keep hearing her name all the time. And I don't know. I feel like they could be good together. I just feel like he's wanting something too fast. I'm not saying it's like she probably only needs a little bit more time. It's probably like hell with her. It's probably like 2 weeks or some shit. I don't feel like she needs that much time. I just think for her she needs to feel solid in the decision. And right now it's a no because of the time. But if you give her a little bit more time, it's like it'll be okay. So anyway, a few days later, Lynn's out of the hospital. They're still going to get married, but they're not going to go to the Caribbean on the honeymoon. They'll do that in a year. They'll either just go themselves or they'll take the whole family. So Lucy, of course, lets her know if she needs anything, she's here. We then switch to Richard and the families, and his family. I'm sorry, they're going over some stuff, and Rich really does have it all down at this point. Wheezy starts kind of pestering Richard about Lucy. And so she's like, she loves you, and I know you love her. And he winds up getting up pissed off because he's like, it's enough, right? And he slams the door. And Gail kind of goes to Weezy and is like, you gotta stop with that, because what you're doing is you're gonna push him to leave. I saw travel arrangements, and I heard him talking to Uncle Ben about possibly going out there. So if you keep pushing him, he's gonna leave. She had another therapy session, Lucy did, with Elise, and it was not going the way that she thought. So she felt like Elise was going to be all on her side, but Elise wasn't. Elise is like, okay, he proposed to you. You said no. You said you needed space. He's giving you that now. You're saying that because he's considering leaving, that he's clearly not the man you thought he was if he just ups and leaves when things get hard. But she's like, you can't do that, right? Because you said that you needed fucking space. Now I'm saying the fucking space, all right? So if he's giving you the space, what are we doing? You know, it's not like you told him, which I did feel she should have said. She should have clarified a little bit more. I do feel that way. It's not like she said, I can't marry you. I want to be with you, but I'm just not ready for marriage. That should have been, I feel, what she vocalized to him. Because that tells you, I want to be with you. It's just for that commitment, it's just too soon for me. He might have still gotten upset because it's still a no, right? But it's not saying that I don't want you a part of my life. When you kind of tell a person I need space, I forgot she said that. When you say that after you just told them you don't want certain stuff, that does kind of, I can see how that could feel like you don't want me. I kind of get that. So her saying it that way kind of helped her understand, like, okay, I kind of maybe didn't handle it the right way. And again, he's heartbroken. Is it hasty to do what he's possibly thinking about doing? Absolutely. But I think it's easier for him than to sit here and just keep being reminded of her and feeling kind of tormented, you know? So what she tells her, Elise tells her, you need to have you have a real conversation with him. You know? See how that works. So when she leaves from the therapist, she bumps into Rob. He, of course, is getting food for the kids, and he asked how everything was. She said, fine. And he was like telling her he wanted to get lunch one day so they could just talk. And she told him, let me just say this. She's like, I don't want to have lunch with you. I don't want to be your friend. She said, maybe someday, but not now. And she's like, when it comes to the kids, I will always be cordial with you. But outside of that, no. She's like, I have forgiven you for what you did, but you need to move on, you know? And she also told him, you better not be saying stuff to the kids either. You know, keep them out of it. So she walks away, and another thing he had said was like he knew about the wedding coming up. But again, we don't know if it's because it's a small town he knows, or it could have been just the fucking kids running their mouth. Because you know they're going to say where they're going, because they're going to the wedding too. So it could be him, you know, pressing them for information, or it could be just them volunteering information, just not thinking that it should be an issue. I don't know. I'm on the fence about that. Lucy helps decorate with the rehearsal dinner because Gus wanted like a barbecue laid back type of vibe. So they're doing that at like the Legion Hall. They've got it decorated. What did they do? They named the baby after Lynn's mom, Sorcha. And we find out Lynn's parents are actually divorced. But when they got divorced, the dad went and stayed in the carriage house and the mom stayed in the main house. And then once she got sick, the dad just moved back in, and that man's been there by her side every step of the way. So Lucy is like, hey, listen, divorce, there's no rule book when it comes to divorce. You have to do with what works for you in the situation, you know? They invited her to come to the cafe, but she declined, and she's glad she did because when she walked by, she saw Richard. And of course, that put her in her feelings. So when she went back to Melvin's closet, Lolly knew something was wrong, but she wouldn't open up. She wouldn't talk to her about it. So Lucy went to a boutique shop with Lolly. I think it's called Margaret's. And she got some really expensive things, really nice. And she looks great. And so Rob Jr. never compliments her, but even he was like, Mom, you look good. You know, she's got on these expensive jeans. Because remember, the actual rehearsal dinner is like a barbecue type of an event. And so she gets there. They're having a good time, speaking with people and everything. And then Richard and his crew come in. And she tries to leave, but Harriet pulls her back. But eventually she scurries off to the bathroom. And when she comes out, Gail is out there and she's like, I've been waiting for you to come out. And she's like, you all have got to stop with this back and forth. He's miserable without you. You look terrified whenever you see him. Like, you all need to work this out. And she kind of looks at her and says, Lucy does. She goes, you look nice too, by the way. And she says, Tim is out back, blah, blah, blah. So Gail is like, it's that obvious. And she's like, yeah. So then Richard approaches and he's like, I need to speak with you. Gail leaves and he pulls Lucy into a room with a bunch of stuff. And he tells her, when she's like, I don't think it's the right time for us to talk. He said, no, just listen. He says, I'm sorry I've been the way I've been. You know, I shouldn't have acted that way because you didn't want to marry me. You know, he's like, it doesn't mean that we can't have a loving relationship or even a friendship. If that's all you want, I realize that even if I moved away, it wouldn't matter. I would still miss you terribly. He's like, you don't have to say anything right now. We'll talk tomorrow. They're going to go on a walk at like 9 a.m. And she's like, I'll come to you because I haven't been to the stables in a while. So I'll come by the farm. And he's like, okay, cool, great. We'll talk. The next morning, she goes to his place. They take the long walk. Pam, one of his children, and she's actually the last person that was living in Maine. She's going to be moving to Horseshoe Crab. I cannot say it right. Horseshoe Crab Cove. So she's going to be moving there, and she bought this bench that has an engraving to their mother. Really sweet. And Lucy tells him she does love him. It's just that it was just too much too soon for her to get married. She says she misses him terribly. And he says, okay. He says, can we proceed being friends? And she says, that's fine. He said, friends that go on occasional dinners, walks, things like that. And she said, yeah. And he says, and maybe friends that make passionate love. And she's like, one step at a time. But she misses the sex too. So we'll see how this works. So she's got to go help set up the wedding, a couple things. And when she gets there, she talks to Gus's sister. And Gus was like, she kind of tells her the story of Gus. Gus was a wreck after he lost his wife. And he didn't come back to life until Lynn came in his life. And so his parents love Lynn. They're happy for him. They're happy they're getting married. And that was nice because I know Lynn had that little issue thinking that because he made that promise he'd never marry again, that it was going to happen. But seeing that everyone is embracing her, loving her, that's sweet. So they go to the wedding. Our girl Lucy looks dynamite. She eventually sees Richard at the reception. She saw him at the wedding, but they didn't get a chance to speak. But at the reception, he comes up to her while she's talking with Wheezy and Gail. And they leave, of course, and it's just Richard and Lucy. He wanted to change place seatings so they could, play footsie with each other. He's like, but I'll just settle for 1 or 20 dances. So then we find out Mavis, who is Lolly's mom, actually knows that Richard knows her ex-husband because Laura, the wife of Richard, was really into plays. And so Mavis's ex-husband put them on. And so Richard helped fund a lot of his plays and things like that because he kind of let his wife do whatever when it came to that because that was her passion. So I was like, oh, wow, it really is a small world, especially for them. Good grief. So there's a bunch of speeches at the reception. Beautiful speeches, but a lot. And then we get to the end of the night. They dance. Gail gets asked to dance by Tim. And they leave out for the night. She goes to her car. Richard finds her, wants to see her tomorrow for dinner. He wants to take her to Providence, Connecticut to check out this new chef. And she agrees. She's up for it. The next night, they go to dinner. It's great food, great conversation. And then afterwards, they go for a little stroll. And he knew this place had a park that they could kind of go and walk off their food, as well as kind of be a little hidden. So they start kissing. They have a nice hard fuck. Almost got caught. I'm like, y'all are always about to get caught. It's the funniest shit to read. So then they head back, and when he drops her off, he tells her, I'm not going to overanalyze anything. I just love what we did and hope to do it more. And she was like, same here. So she goes in, and her kids are still up. They see she snagged her dress, and she lies and says that she thought she sat down on something. Good little lie. Came out real smooth. And so then the kids were talking about everything that happened at the reception the previous night. And they've got a lot of girl crush. A lot of people have the younger girls have crushes on Tim, and they were trying to figure out what the deal was with him and the Morgan girl that they saw him dancing with. But she didn't say she knew that they kind of got something going on. She just left it at that. So Richard was telling Dennis Farrell, who's kind of taking over Gus's while Gus is, on maternity leave with his fiance, well, wife now. Um, he's telling him, Dennis is saying we can't take out Tornado. He's a stallion Mustang. Richard feels like he needs to get out for a few hours every day. Like, we need to do it. So they give him apples because he loves apples. But then once the animal realizes that it's trapped, it of course raises those hooves, knocks Richard back, and then the side of a hoof comes down on the side of Richard's head. And so it's scary. So Dennis had to run in there and get him because the horse retreated to the other side, and they had to get Richard out of there and get him to the hospital. So Rich called Lucy down to the hospital, let her know what happened, and he apparently had been asking for Lucy. So they told her what happened with the horse. Gail and Rich want to get rid of the horse. Wheezy feels like it wasn't the horse's fault. The horse only responds to Gus. That's the reason they call Gus the horse whisperer, because there's certain things just only he can do. So she goes in there to see him, and I guess the protocol now is every 15 minutes they wake you up. But he apparently was doing too much sleeping, the doctor said. So she was going to give an update, but they had left. So it was only Lucy in there. But then Ben, who's another son of Richard's, he's a doctor and he lives in Philadelphia. He's come in and he's like demanding all these answers. And they, of course, give them to him. And Lucy stayed the night. And they checked on Richard. And so by the next morning, he decides he needs to get an MRI because something is wrong. He's sleeping way too much. This was that night. I'm sorry. That he said that. He's like, if he's still sleeping so much by morning, he's got to get an MRI because something's off. So Ben had them hook up the IV to give him some fluids because they haven't given him anything. He hadn't eaten anything. So when Ben came in because Ben stayed that night as well. And so the next morning, he appeared to be doing a lot better. And so while Richard was sleeping, Lucy had said to him how much she loved him and how much, if he wakes up, she'll marry him tomorrow. If he wanted to, she's sorry for being so stupid. She just can't live life without him. He, of course, comes to, and he's like, I just had the greatest dream in the world. And when he says what it was, she said, no, that was real. That was me saying that to you. So now he's ready to go, right? So little by little, all the kids start filing in. But he's like, I don't like hospitals. I'm done. I want to get out of here. He had done pulled Lucy into the bed with him. It's a bigger bed. And he was ready to go. And so he was shocked to see Ben there. But Ben was like, of course I'm going to come. You're in the hospital. Like, come on. But color has returned to his cheeks. He seems more hydrated. So they'll let him leave, after a while. But he was just so happy, and it was really loving, and his family and her seeing that family so loving, it really made her happy as well. Because she's about to be a part of it. So Richard's back at home with his family. They're hovering over him. But they're going to leave the following day so he can stomach it. He calls Lucy so they can have dinner because he misses her, and she of course agrees. She goes into Merlin's closet. Lolly's there, and Lolly's kind of talking about how the wedding was great, but she didn't see any eligible bachelors for herself. And Lucy, of course, is like, you'll find someone, it'll happen. And then she tells her about everything that happened with Richard. And then she goes to lunch with Lynn. Lynn's feeling a little down because all her family left, but she's able to kind of pick her back up a bit because she lets her know, take your time. You'll meet more people, X, Y, and Z. They have a nice lunch. So the next day, he takes her to one of the cottages at Mavis's Manor, which is, what is it called? Netherfield, something like that manor. And Mavis and him are cool. And he's got it all set up so he can get on one knee and propose. And she, of course, says yes. And then she's like, wait a minute, what about the kids? And he said, don't worry, Lolly has them staying with their friends. And that made her happy because it's like, okay, he understands about her children. And the children they clearly know that her and Rob are not getting back together. And they're fine with it, you know what I mean? And they like the Morgan family too, so that's a really good thing as well. It's not like she's married into somebody, like they don't like Chloe, right? But they do like the Richard guy and his family, so that's always good. And she's just really happy. And so they were about to screw, and he's like, on the bed or right here on the rug. And she says, we've got a lifetime for a bed. She's like, right now on the rug. And that's how it ends. So there's other books in the series. Again, you saw how you could hear how many characters I just talked about, and that wasn't even everybody. So I see why there's a bunch of books in this series. So if you guys want to dive into any of those are available. I'm not going to review them on the channel, but those can be some possibly good reads for you. I might check out a couple on my own time. What did you all think? I really liked this. This was like an older, even though like 39 isn't really old because that's close to my age because I'm early 40s, so that's kind of close to my age. But it's normally the guy might be around that age, but to have like an even older, it's like an older couple, a little bit more mature, but you kind of see how they can still have the same crazy issues. You know what I mean? They can still have those issues. But I thought it was a really cute read. What did you all think? Let me know. Drop down in the comment section and let me know. If you are in the market for a beautiful notebook or journal, I do have those available, and the links are going to be available down below in the description section. Make sure you like and subscribe. And as always, I truly do thank you all for your support, and thank you for tuning in to the Always Reading Book Club.